Ros Gervay is a visual artist and a business coach for new and up and coming artists. She helps her clients develop the confidence to show up as artists, to sell their work, and master their marketing so they can build a fulfilling art business and get paid to do what they love, even if they're self taught. She has firsthand experience at building an art business from scratch and developing it into a six-figure multiple income stream business that she loves. She's also the co-host of the Paint, Rest, and Repeat podcast. And Roz, welcome to The Inspired Life.
Thank you so much for having me, Bob. That was a great intro. I'm going to sit back now.
Yeah, I just grabbed it off of your website, but that's a pretty compelling bio there. So let's establish some things. People may have already picked this up based on your accent. You are located in Australia, right?
I am Sydney-based.
Sydney-based, yeah. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions about your story, you as an artist, and a lot of business things that we're going to talk about. But just to clarify some things, so you have built this to a six-figure business, and is that in Australian dollars, I assume?
Yeah.
Right. So, okay.
Yes.
Just want to clarify that. So I think that works out to be, if my Googling was correct earlier, it's like roughly $66,000, I believe, US, which is still a nice income for people in the arts when you hear so much about starving artists, which I've never bought into, and I know that you haven't either. Can you give me just like an overview, like a current breakdown of your income streams, like by percentages? I assume some of these are like your personal art sales, and some of them, it's always changing. I'm sure it's going to grow, but just kind of give people an idea of the breakdown of your multiple streams of income, and then we'll come back later and go into more depth with them.
I love that question, Bob, and I have never looked at those figures. I really should. So these are going to be complete estimates.
That's okay.
So
Your best guess.
I'm known for being a bit of a yes person. So if there's an opportunity to bring art to anybody in any shape or form, I'm just a big old yes. So I have a lot of income streams in my art business, and they all light me up in different ways. So I've got the coaching side of my business, which is around supporting other creatives to make an income out of their art, but in a way that is fulfilling. So that's a really big piece of the puzzle for me. So I feel like that would probably sit maybe at 50% of my income. Then I have my original work as well, which is in 3 galleries across Australia. That's probably quite a small portion of my income, maybe 15%. And then I also run an after-school art program for children, and I also work with adults with disabilities as well. So fit that into the mix percentage-wise. I do bit of everything, and I absolutely love the variety. I'm all about that. I get bored doing any one thing, so it really, really suits me. I think you can probably relate.
Oh, I can definitely relate. Have way too many irons in the fire, as they say. But yeah, us creative people, we like variety, and it's easy to get bored if you just did the same mechanical thing all the time, right? Although there are things that I stick with. I mean, I stick with publishing books and doing YouTube consistently. There's things that I'm sure you had to be consistent and disciplined in many ways, but under the umbrella of a creative buffet of different things, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's not that you try one thing and leave it. It's more that having multiple things on the go at the one time, it works really well for me. And I feel like you're saying many creatives.
Yeah. And I'm sure it changes. Probably what you did a year or two ago is different. That percentage breakdown, I'm sure, is different, and it'll be different a year or two from now.
And going with the flow, listening to, like, following your nose a bit, listening to your intuition, following need at the time as well. Because I think my teaching side of art started during COVID, and I was doing a lot of Zoom sessions because that's what people were seeking at that time. They needed that release, like breaking up the routine and having a little bit of time to themselves. So, following the need is really important too.
Okay. So you just started teaching, in the last few years. So let's go back. Just tell me a little bit about your personal history with art. I'm assuming this is something that dates back to childhood. And when did you get to the point where you realized, oh, I can monetize this, I can make money with it? And did you wrestle with that whole thing of making money as an artist, like a lot of people do?
Yeah, there's always those, money mindset challenges. And like you mentioned before, the starving artist myth, that's a really fun one. So yeah, definitely all of that definitely is at play. Yeah, so I'm a creative person. So I started out like many artists, all artists, I feel, with that creative background. So I've always been creative. I studied art at a high level during high school. I studied design at university. It's that classic, push into having to study something that's a little bit more practical than just visual arts. Don't you like it? Did you face that too, Bob?
So yeah, I was raised by a single mom, and she always encouraged me, but she wasn't one of those people that said, "Don't do music, don't do this or that." She's going, "That's really nice, that's awesome," and she actually celebrated the things that I did. But she was wanting me to be safe and have something to fall back on and all that. So it was kind of a balance. But a lot of people do get that feedback from their parents, from their friends, their peer group about, "Oh, who do you think you are?" So you have to find that from within, right? Is that what you had to do?
Yeah, 100%. So I started in design. So I studied design at the College of Fine Arts here in Sydney. And then from there, I worked in interior design and I really loved it. However, because I was in that commercial or that corporate side of interior design, I felt like a little bit of a disconnect, essentially. I felt like I wasn't being of service enough in the world. So then I ended up having a bit of a career change at 25, and I actually studied primary teaching at that point. And I worked then in primary teaching for quite a while. I did a prac placement in Tennant Creek, which is in the middle of Australia with the Aboriginal community. And that was incredibly rewarding. I was very lucky after that because I did really well at uni that I got a placement in a school, but it was in a privileged area. And for me, that wasn't as rewarding as I wanted teaching to be. I really wanted to be of more service than that. So I then had my own two little people, and that's when I returned to art and true creativity. So that's when I picked up a brush again and I started creating and just couldn't put the brush down.
And by two little people, you met children. Yes.
Yes,
And how old are they now?
they are 7 and 9. They
Seven.
change every year. Have you noticed that with kids,
I,
Bob? Actually, it
I
happens
have.
with adults too.
Yeah, it happens with myself too, and I try to slow that down, but it's a fast-moving train, it seems. So you had to do all this while being a mom, and I know I mentioned I was raised by a single mom, and did you raise your hand?
Yes,
Oh,
definitely. Yeah. So just raised by my mum from the age of 5, and she was
okay,
a trooper. It's hard work raising kids by
yeah.
yourself. So yeah, I'm lucky I've still got my husband
Oh,
around.
that definitely helps. And with my wife, Pookie, we've been together for almost 18 years, or over 18 years, but we only got married a year ago. We wanted to wait 17 years and make sure it was right, you know?
My mum has done that actually. So she's remarried and they were together for a long time before they married,
Right.
which
So it sounds like you did a lot of things, and I took a similar path. Like writing and music date back to when I was a kid, and there was a period when I did take on day jobs. When I had to support myself, I tried to do things that were in fields that I was interested in. And so I had my last day job, which I had 20 years ago, was in the corporate world, but I was in internal communications. So I was using writing. I've published many books over the years. I always considered myself a writer. And so it makes sense to me that you would go into design, interior design, graphic design, because it's still in your wheelhouse, but then you ultimately didn't find satisfaction probably working for somebody else, I'm assuming.
I think it was a bit of that. Working for someone else didn't work for me. And also just wanting to have more of an impact, So I have a bit of a history doing charity work as well. And I remember moving into teaching, thinking, I basically want to do charity work full time, but be paid for it so that I can still pay my bills, right? And I
Right.
think, that's what's happened with my art as well. And I've only really noticed this recently that I've gone then after having my kiddos back into art making. And that's then leapt over again into service. So I can help other creatives to make an income out of their art. And it's that combination, something for me, which is my art practice, and then the service towards other people and helping them on their journey. And that is like the sweet spot for me. We're all different, but that really, really works for me.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, most people that find success, you might be pursuing something that's bringing you personal satisfaction, but ultimately, the best way to live and serve and make money is to serve other people. How does what you do benefit others? And how can you find that overlap between what you do and what people are willing to pay for, so you can support yourself and your kids? So, do you remember like the first time you sold a piece of your original art?
Oh, yeah, I do. It's a funny story. So it
Hi.
was a while back. I think it was 2019, maybe. It was before COVID. I feel like COVID is the marker in time. So before COVID, I took part in an exhibition at the New South Wales Art Gallery. It was like a upcoming emerging artist exhibition, and it was amazing to be a part of. Seeing my art in that space, I mean, that is just epically rewarding. And then walking around, looking at all the beautiful artworks, being inspired by everybody. And next thing you know, I spot a red dot next to my painting. And I was so excited. I went to my family who were with me that night and I went, oh my goodness, I just sold my first piece of art. And then my mum just looked at me. She had bought it.
Oh, okay, you sold it to your mom. That is funny. Just
I didn't realize.
that's funny. So yeah, obviously the red dot represents somebody making an offer on it. So that's great.
Yeah.
So your mom was supportive as well. Fine.
100%.
So
She's amazing. You know,
sure.
our happiness as children and also our safety it's a bit of a combination of those two things.
Yeah.
That's what she wants for us, for my brother and I as her kids. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when's the first time you sold art to somebody that you weren't related to?
To a real person?
Yeah.
Oh, my poor mum. She's a real person.
She's a real person, the realest of all. Yeah.
I should actually put in here, though, before I share a story around my first public art sale, that sales to family and friends totally, they count. They are your biggest fans. So I feel like that does definitely count, although it was just funny in that particular moment.
Yeah. I'm going to share this with you quick. My wife, Pookie, she has this funny thing that she says, because a lot of times when you put out something, whether it's music, a book, art, a lot of times people will refer to like a family and friends discount, but she thinks it's the opposite. She thinks your biggest supporters, your family, your friends, they should pay more for your art. So,
I'm so with you on that, because I think also as artists, we always feel like we have to offer a discount. We have this whole money mindset baggage ourselves. And so offering a discount to your family and friends, it's like, you actually don't need to do that. They're the people that want to support you. I'm on the same page as your wife. I totally agree.
Great point. That's actually the first people that you should reach out to, the people that you know. So the people you're related to, the people you hang out with, go to church with or whatever. And those are valid sales too. So did you struggle with knowing your value as an artist? Like when somebody asked you how much for that painting, did you choke up early on and go, I don't know, and then you underprice things, So tell me a little bit about that journey. I think every creative person deals with it.
Definitely. I think it's, putting a price on your art is very, very, very hard to do. I mean, there are formulas you can apply that will spit out a number for you, but putting a price on your art is more than just a number, right? Like you're saying, it's related to the courage and the self-worth piece as well. So for me, I think I started really low with my pricing. So that definitely helped with the courage side of things. And I do usually recommend that, actually starting on the lower side and then building that number up as you build your sales evidence and also your confidence as you go. Yeah, putting a price tag on your art, super hard, but you've got to do it. And it's that courage piece, that courage, overconfidence. Just say the price, zip your lips, see what happens. That feeling?
Yeah, a friend of mine who used to do some public speaking, he said when he'd be on the phone with somebody talking about, coming to their conference and speak, and the person would go, how much do you charge? And he would cite a number that he was a little uncomfortable saying, and he would say it, and he would literally hold his hand over his mouth so that the next thing said was from the other person. And they either say, oh, okay, or well, that's a little of all of our budget, and then you can negotiate with them. But some people treat that silence with, I can come down if that's too much for you, but don't do that, right? But I do like that, because there's a lot of advice out there. You hear like an artist will hear, oh, you're underpricing yourself and know your value and charge what you're worth. But sometimes going to that higher price when you're not ready for it, like you said, I think it is okay to sell at a lower price, and then you can always increase it over time. And you're right, it's a confidence building thing. And you sell a few paintings at a higher price, and then suddenly that becomes your new normal, and then you go up to the next stage, right?
Growing with it, Bob. Yeah, I think that is definitely a good strategy. And just be gentle. We don't have to be gung-ho art blasters. Like I do joke about art world domination with my clients, but
right.
There is a gentle way to approach that.
Good, which I think appeals to a lot of creative people who tend to be a little more sensitive. Let's just talk briefly about your personal art style, because you're now teaching other people how to do this, but you had to experience it yourself. So as an artist who's selling to the public, how do you describe your art in ways that communicate what you do and what they get out of it?
Oh, I love that. So these ones, I should just say, the artworks behind me, this side, are not the best representation of my style. I'll give you a little story before I explain my art style. These were created in my last body of work, and I used these actually as palettes when I created that collection. And so I decided that I would work my palettes so I could actually sell them afterwards. But these ones have ended up just being my backdrop over here. But yes, my style I describe as modern and botanical, expressive, intuitive, high in color as well. I'm all about that purity of marks. So I'm getting more and more abstract as I go. And I just love my art. I make art for me. I refuse to make art to sell. So you'll notice pretty much all of my artworks have hot pink in there, like it's a fluorescent magenta from Golden, if anyone wants a little paint tip. And that's just loudly, proudly who I am, the art I make, the art that I love to make. And that's how it remains.
So you hear this debate a lot with creative people. I've heard it over the years about whether making art or music or whatever it is for yourself versus making it for the public. And I think there's a balance. Like, did you ever get to the point where there's something was selling a certain style and you go, okay, I'll make more of those things because people seem to be interested in these days. It's still something you're interested in, you're passionate about, or you enjoy making, but sometimes the public opinion can steer, I think, what you create.
And I think that's okay. I think it is like there's a level of that is smart, paying attention to what the world wants. But I think staying true to making the art that you love to make is also really, really important, because if you're not loving your creations and the process of creating it, then it's just simply not worth it, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah. How do you feel in terms of your areas of creativity?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the wording of this, but one of my earlier books, I talked about creating for process versus, I think the other word was maybe project. And so if you're doing it for a project, you're creating something with an end result in mind. And that might be like a commission piece. I'm sure people have paid you, right, to do a commission. And that the customer has told you, oh, I want this type of thing. Unless they just trust you, do whatever you want, I'll buy it. But usually they're wanting something specific, so you have an end result in mind. And I think it's okay to do that. I've done that with some of my artwork. But then there's times when you can just do it for the process, which means you're just playing with a different technique or something with no end result in mind. Let's just see where this goes. And that's how you innovate. So I think finding a balance between those two things, that's what works for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And there's definitely room for doing that. If your art gets to a point where you are selling a particular style or a particular version of your art, you're selling that quite well, it is really important to still maintain that joy and that maybe even, a portion of your practice, which is purely about experimentation and play and pushing it. Or you can create a new series of work which explores just a particular area of your style, for example, and you push it in that space. So there's a lot of different ways to play and to run your art practice. But that joy, number one, there's non-negotiable in my eyes.
So let me get a little timeline here. So when did you start just creating art again, just on your own? And was it just in recent years that you started teaching others? So did you start teaching others how to paint? And then when did the business teaching come in? Just give me a little chronology.
And I'm trying to remember, and again, using COVID as a marker. So I returned to painting, I feel, in 2018. And then 2019 started selling at that point a little bit, just like early days, family and friends online, just very relaxed. Then 2020, I think I started Zoom teaching, and that was more around the art teaching, so teaching art workshops as a form of service to people and mums in particular who were doing it tough, locked at home with the kiddos. So I did that. I think I also did some kids' art lessons via Zoom at that point. And then after COVID, things shifted and I turned that into a recurring income stream. So I ran workshops monthly as part of my membership on Zoom. And then from there, just slowly sort of crept into the art business side and making art sales, because there was a need for it. As I mentioned before, following the needs really important. And also it really lit me up. I love art business. I find it really fun. I find it intriguing. I find it's like a forever sort of eternal learning opportunity as well. So yeah, I just love it.
So your membership started primarily as teaching people to do art, like, here, come and join us and we'll get together and we'll work on art pieces and support each other, I assume. And then it morphed in more recent years into helping people build a business doing it, which I'm assuming comes with a higher price point. I assume people just doing casually art, maybe that's a certain type of customer. And then the people wanting to turn it into a business and make money doing it is a different type. Did the same membership evolve into that? And how do you serve those two audiences?
Such a good question. Look, I serve both of them through the membership. I am a nurturer by nature, so I just want to scoop everyone up and sort of keep them in my safe little nest. So my beautiful members who've been there right from the get-go, they are still in my beautiful Art for the Heart membership, and they benefit from monthly art workshops that we still run. So I will run generally every third one, and then I now have guest artists come in and run the other two in the quarter. And that's how I keep them engaged and happy. And then I also love to shout them out on my socials. And then all the other art business stuff is now added into the mix. And yeah, the price point is higher for once I shifted into the art business side. But also, this is a business growth element here. When you start to take your business seriously, you've actually got to look at your numbers. You have to look at what you need in terms of a profit to be able to call this your job. And you need to do some maths around it. And so for me, I realized based on the maths, I need to charge this amount for my membership. Otherwise, it ain't going to fly. And I won't be here for these beautiful people to support them. Peace.
Well, I have more questions I'm going to ask you about that. I'm going to ask you about like what struggles you had to overcome, what tools you use to keep your mindset in shape. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we are connected here and what other mentors you've relied on. But first, I'm just going to take a short break here to let folks know about something else that I'm up to, and then we'll be right back with Ros. Do you think of yourself as a creative entrepreneur or a heart-centered business person? Perhaps you're a musician, author, artist, or performer. Or maybe you're a coach, teacher, or energy worker. Or you just have an inspired message you want to share with more people. If this describes you, I invite you to join the Magnetize Your Tribe community. This is where you'll learn how to attract perfect, soul-aligned fans and paying customers without feeling spammy, boastful, or overwhelmed. I'll share the principles that allowed me to grow my YouTube channel to hundreds of thousands of subscribers and the lessons I've learned from publishing 16 books, attracting a sizable online following, and being self-employed for the past 20 years. Just visit bobbakerinspiration.com/heart, and it's free to join. That's bobbakerinspiration.com/HEART. All right, we're back with Ros Gervay. And we were talking about how as you build a business in whatever the creative field is, you have to learn about business and marketing and get your mindset in order. There are a lot of tools that if you want to rise above just doing art as a hobby, and that's fine. If the people just want to do it as a hobby, as a part-time thing just for themselves, that's fine. But if you have ambitions to share your art and to maybe make a supplemental income, maybe a full-time income, there's certain things you have to learn and put into place. Now, I hope you don't mind me saying that we know each other because we're both in a program with Holly McHugh, another fellow Aussie there, and she's like a messaging and sales strategist. I've followed her for a long time, and I think we're both currently in her program, and she's awesome. And so that's how we met. So I'm very grateful that's how we got connected here. But what else have you done? Like, what have you invested in as far as like books or mentors or programs? I'm just curious, how you learned to give yourself the tools to succeed.
Well, I feel I first need to declare that I feel I have an addiction to to learning about business and small business. I just love it so much. I've done a number of things. So yes, I'm in Holly's program at the moment with you. And I've also worked with Tash Corbin, who's another business coach. I have a whole bunch of books behind me as well. So I like the Profit First book, which is amazing. Habit Stacking as well by James Clear is really important. So a whole lot of resources. What else have I done? Mums with Hustle, I think it was a Facebook membership a long time ago that I was a part of around small business. Also, I'm in Jade Warren's Small Business Growth Club as well, which focuses primarily on Instagram marketing, as well as a few other bits and pieces for marketing. So yeah, so a bit of everything. I just love to tap into different people for their expertise and to take on what they can share with me and then apply that to what I do as well. So yeah, more is more, I think, in terms of education. It really is my take.
You said something that's unique. Not every creative person says this. I've heard this term workshop junkie, where they just like will sign up for everything and just soak it all up. And you said, I love it. But you will admit that many creative people don't love that aspect, or they resist it, or they go, "Oh, I got to learn this marketing, social media," and they just complain about it. So there's a difference when you're excited about it, right?
100%. And I never used to be that way. So I'm actually not an extrovert, which might be surprising because I have a podcast. I do a lot of online broadcasty styles. But I think, what happened with me initially was out of need. I knew that I wasn't going back to teaching. It wasn't going to happen. I couldn't do it. It wasn't ever going to happen. So art was it. And so what did I need to do in order to make that happen? And that was all around visibility. It was all around learning. It was all around saying yes rather than no. And so basically my personality has shifted and I've developed a whole lot out of need.
Well, yeah, whether it's financial necessity or creative necessity, you find a way to make things work, And then maybe it starts off when you're being pushed. Reverend Michael Beckwith is someone I admire, and he has this phrase that says, "Pain pushes until vision pulls." Isn't that cool? Pain pushes until vision pulls. So you might initially be pushed into something out of a need, and ideally, the thing that you get involved in then becomes, "Oh, I'm excited about this. Oh, I'm getting better. I'm gaining confidence. This is pretty cool." And then you're pushed by the vision instead of there's pressure to make it work. Not everybody's blessed to reach that point with their passions or their.
I think it takes a certain stubborn streak, don't you think, Bob?
It is. In fact, I always knew that I was not going to be happy working for somebody else. And the way I've described it, I said I was stubbornly determined to find a way to make a living on my own, working for myself on my own terms. Stubbornly determined. Can you relate to that?
That is 100% it. It's almost like something clicks at a certain point. You go, this is it. I'm going to make this work. And there's no going back. There's no ifs, there's no buts. There's only, I will find a way and it will happen.
And the great thing is not being stuck in the how. So know what your what is, know what you want to do, know your why. Why do I want to do that thing? Why am I compelled to do this? But no one knows how they're going to get it done. And we're just guessing. And then you just start taking steps and a way is made. Right.
Exactly. And, I will often also talk about the benefit of having community because it's a journey, as cliche as it sounds. It is a journey. You're not going to instantly find success like overnight. That doesn't really happen. So we need people to journey with, people alongside us, other people who are believing mirrors. I'm not sure if you've heard that concept, Bob, from Julia Cameron. This whole concept, people who shine the best version of ourselves back and reflect that back to us and then encourage us towards our calling, because I think we all need those cheerleaders, people who truly believe in us. And I do feel you do need that stubborn streak that we mentioned, but you do need those people behind you as well.
Sure.
Encouraging you. They're not always easy to find, but if you find one of them, hold on.
So you created your own community that people can join. But prior to that, did you have a support group that helped you?
Not a direct one. Actually, I used to go to a community college. This was way back when I picked up my paintbrush again. I went to a local community art center to do some art classes. They were primarily just about space making. So I could splush paint around however I liked, which was great. But I came to this point where I had daycare problems with my kiddo and I asked, can my child come along to the 2-hour painting session? And fairly enough, they said no. And so for me, I was bumped out of that community, right? And I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. So I had to find people outside of that. And for me, that's Laura Day, who's on my podcast with me, or we're co-hosts together. So we support each other in many, many ways. And she's a foundation there. And then other communities as well through memberships that I mentioned before that also helps people in small business, online small business definitely helped me.
Great. Like, yeah, it is so true having a support group and just hanging around people that are energetically on the same vibe. We have something called the High Vibe Tribe, our online community. It's just for those people that don't get that encouragement in their everyday lives. We talked about mentors and where you learn business and all that stuff. But since I am sort of the king of affirmations on YouTube, do you have any mindset practices? Do you do affirmations, meditation, journaling? Do you have any particular practices that you have used over the years to help you?
I am a little bit up and down with things like that. That's just how I roll. However, what does work for me when I really need it is stream of consciousness journaling. So it's just getting out anything onto your piece of paper. I do 6 pages and first thing in the morning and then putting it aside. And I never ever read those back. I never analyze anything. It's just sort of clearing the mind. So that really works. Exercise is really good as well. So local walks in nature as well is really, really beneficial. So they're my go-tos. I do love a few affirmations as well. What's your favorite one, Bob, actually? What's for creatives?
I mean, you certainly say something about today I'm going to find opportunities to express my creativity, but like a good general one, because I think gratitude is important and also aspiring for more, finding that balance between those two things. So one of my favorites is I am grateful for all that I have and eager for more. You want to appreciate where you are regardless of your circumstances, count your blessings, but also aspire for more, because a lot of people think that being grateful and being happy means you're complacent, but no, you can still be happy with what you have and still be moving towards something bigger and better.
And this self-worth piece though in there as well is quite a big one, because I feel like a lot of artists wonder, like, who am I to take money for my art? Who am I to ask someone else to, invest in my creativity? I mean, I enjoyed making that artwork. How can I charge money for that?
Right.
So yeah, that affirmation, great choice, Bob.
Sure, thanks. And that uncertainty or that fear comes from a lack of confidence. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm not feeling confident. I don't have like the confidence gene. Like I wasn't born with it. These special people over here. But no, you're not born with it. Confidence comes with taking action and having successes. And reading about success stories of people that have done it. Like if they can do it, I can too. Bob did it, Ros did it, and you just take one foot in front of the other. So confidence, I'm learning more and more, comes from competence. So having tried something, maybe it wasn't worked out perfectly, but you learn from it and do a better job, and you just increasingly get better at it, and your confidence builds as you take action in the real world.
Hey, Bob, I was thinking you might like this particular line from my uncle, who I love very dearly. He's on the elderly side now, but he used to always say to me, you need to be in a job where you are incompetent. Because if you're not incompetent in your role, it means you're not learning. I quite like that idea. We need to be stretching ourselves and growing all the time. There's no reward otherwise. If it's easy, it's not that fun, right? It's not rewarding.
Right. And so I do a lot of teaching. I think I have a lot of wisdom to share with people, but I think of myself as a lifelong learner, student, eternally, simultaneously a teacher and a student. Real quickly, you mentioned 6 pages. You also mentioned Julia Cameron earlier, so I know you're referring to morning pages that she talked about in The Artist Way. And so that's very cool. So let's just talk about your membership site, because you said that's like 50% of that 6-figure income, or roughly. So it's called Art for the Heart.
To the heart.
It's an online membership for new and rising artists looking to make consistent art sales using the fulfilled artist method. I'm going to ask you about that. So you can be paid to do what you love, even if you have no idea about the business side. And so currently, do you mind if I mention the rates that I found on your website?
Go for it. I hope they're correct.
So this is Australian dollars, 130 a month Australian dollars, which I think translates to about $86 US.
You do well over there. Your exchange rate is great for Aussie dollars.
But that's not a low ticket item. That's a pretty good, you could be serious about joining a membership site for the average person. But if it's a business person, that's a great investment. And then you have a yearly amount. You're prepaying for 10 months. You get 2 months free. Really, so it's 1,300 Australian, about 860 US. And you said that you raised that, from the earlier version of the membership once you kind of switched to more of a business focus. Was making that jump, like I said, did you go through some of that hesitation? Oh, I'm going to raise the prices, and how are people going to respond and all that? How'd you deal with that?
Definitely. Yeah, that's always tricky. So it's been a slow creep over a number of years. I think maybe started about 2 years ago. I should go and check that. But it started out at something like, I think, $19 per month. So very low when you start out. You're testing the market and you're dealing with your own money mindset issues and self-worth issues as well, right from the start. And then it slowly increased. So this most recently I actually have doubled the price. So I doubled this price up to $130 just in the last couple of months. So that feels like a big, bold move. But also as a coach, I would actually prefer to have a smaller community. I would like a smaller community where I can support people and maintain that quality of service. That works for me. That doesn't always work for everyone. So the pricing really lends to that situation. It's actually perfect for me.
And I'm assuming maybe some of your long-term members were, I think there's a term like grandfathered in. You can reward the people that have been with you the longest, right? And so you mentioned in there the fulfilled artist method. And this is sort of a really smart thing that I encourage people to do who are going into creative entrepreneurship is come up with, a lot of people call it your signature system. I guess this would be your signature system. And how did you come up with that and why? Your
The
mouth.
why is definitely around service, obviously. So it's helping my beautiful artists to go from what I call a Sunday artist up to being the art boss. So I have 5 stages in the Fulfilled Artist Method, and it is all about that journey. And actually, it has come about organically because over the 2 years with Art for the Heart, I was constantly adding more video tutorials, more tips, and more content. And now, what I have done in the last 6 months, I have sculpted it into a system which actually takes you from A to B, the Sunday artist, to the art boss. So that's how it works at the moment.
So it's a lot of lessons here in the last couple of things that you said. One is this sort of evolution. It's like a recurring theme. You Similar to how you priced your art when you sold your paintings years ago, you started low and then you gained confidence and you worked your way up. Same thing with your membership, started at 19 a month, then raised it. You recently doubled the prices. So it's an evolution. And even the curriculum, the things that you teach have evolved based on your interactions with students, finding out what they need, how you can best serve them. Because a lot of people, I think, are petrified to start because they think they have to have everything together to be able to even take the first step. But that's really not true. There's a term called minimal viable product or minimal viable offer I've heard lately. And just what's the most basic version of the thing you want to offer? Can you get out of the world, start serving people, getting feedback, and then you improve it over time? Is that kind of how you approached it too?
I love that so much. There's another business coach. I can't remember her name, but she has a book and it says, "Let it be easy." How can you make it easy, simple, and fun? And how can you also take steps forward and focus on that progress over perfection? Because I think a lot of creatives, a lot of females in particular, tell me if I'm wrong, Bob, suffer from the whole perfectionism piece, wanting to get everything, like all their ducks lined up. Maybe that's not the right way to go about art business. Maybe we need to put our foot out there, like actually dip our toe in the water, try the thing, test the market, see if anyone's interested in the thing. And if they are, then put our energy into it, then improve it, then tweak it. It's really around that permission to start and permission to grow. And we're organic creatures, right? We're not robots, we're not machines, we're not pre-designed. We have our ideas and we want to be able to follow those ideas and evolve them as well. So yeah, the permission to start, permission to grow.
Like people are always looking for external validation that they should pursue a path. And I've always said you should give yourself permission to succeed. You can turn that into affirmation. I give myself permission to create art. I give myself permission to put myself out there. I give myself permission to be messy in the early stages, or maybe at all stages, and be okay with it. And so I love that you use the word permission. That's beautiful. And you can give that to yourself. Okay, let's see here. So much to talk about. So I know this from a marketing standpoint, you, like a lot of people, you give away a freebie. Sometimes it's called a lead magnet to get people on your email list. And that thing is 20 plus ways to make money from your art this week. That's a pretty strong title. How long have you been offering that? And does that help build your email list?
I have a funny story about that one, by the way, Bob. Yes, that one is really, really interesting to people. So it's fantastic to be getting people on board through that lead magnet. I advertise that one with Facebook or Meta ads, which really, really helps me to build my market. But the funny story about that one is when I first ran this ad through Facebook ads, it was brought down because they said, you're going to chuckle at this one, unrealistic promise. Can you imagine? Like the whole starving artist thing. Embedded in Meta, even Meta.
How dare you say you're going to help visual artists make money? That's unheard of. It's controversial.
It's just hilarious because, one of my clients, Cassie Holmes, go and check her out. Just this last week, she followed up with a past buyer for her art. And guess what? This week, that follow-up turned into 2 commission jobs with that one client.
Wow.
Like she made money out of her art this week by following up. So it is possible.
But that's a strong title. No matter what the field is, whether it's art or selling books or music or whatever. People have an interest in making money from it. And then you have the immediacy of this week. That's great. So what are the best parts of what you do? Like what really lights you up about this current stage of your life? The show's called The Inspired Life. And so what are the best parts of living your inspired life these days?
For me, it's around the service and the impact. And whilst I help artists to make money out of their art and their passion for art, it goes way deeper than that for me. It goes down to that fulfillment piece and that also finding your voice. So I had a client recently with a one-on-one session, Brody Wallace, go and check her out as well. And we discovered she was making the art that she felt she should be creating, that she felt like the art that was more commercially viable. And we ended up actually both crying in this session together because we made this huge realization. And now she's gone off to be creating art that she wants to be making, and it is bleeping gorgeous as well. So I think that's the thing. That's what reminds me that I'm doing what I should be doing. Like that completely lights me up, helping people to find their voice and find their own way. That's why I say it's not just about the income. It's not just about the money, although that does help with paying bills, right? It's that fulfillment and the confidence and the self-worth and all of those softer but essential elements.
Yeah. I guess there's many different ways that you can get paid for whatever you do in the world, the gift that you're sharing with the world. And one is with money, of course. Another is with personal satisfaction about accomplishing, I made these paintings and I've done all these cool things. But another one is serving others. When you see that the work that you've done, the impact you've had on somebody, how it's improved their life. That's my biggest fuel to keep doing what I do with affirmations and even the other work that I do for creative entrepreneurs is the lives that you can change.
You know what, Bob? I'm right there with you. I'm getting goosebumps. You know, I often come back to this thought that we owe it to the universe, like whatever spiritual background you have, like we owe it to the universe to make the most of our time here. We're gifted this period of time to do something with. And I personally see it as two-pronged. You owe it to the world to have a life that is joyful for yourself. And then ideally, the cherry on the top is to be of service and to positively impact and help other people as well.
That's very cool. Now, we put a pretty positive spin. We've been very inspiring here, encouraging people. But let's be honest, life is a roller coaster ride. And so if I were to ask you a similar question, like what are the most challenging parts of what you're currently doing? Let's be honest about that. What would those things be?
For me, it's boundaries. It's always been a thing for me. So I have a little post-it note above my monitor behind you here, and it says extraordinary service. That's what I want to offer my beautiful people and my clients. But at the same time, I've also got to give myself extraordinary service. I've got to make time for myself to exercise. I've got to make time to spend with my family, do other things outside of my business that light me up. So for me, it's around the boundary side of things. Being very open with you today, Bob.
That's what this is all about. What advice do you have for people? And I know we touched on a lot of things here, but if somebody wants to pursue a similar path, and maybe it's not even an art, maybe they have another gift that they want to share and they want to create a membership site and all that. Any additional advice you want to give somebody like that?
Just to listen to your heart and give it a crack. Like I was saying, life is way too short not to be giving these things a go. So give it a go, find a mentor, find a coach, find someone who's gone before you. If you don't want to do that, find some people to journey with, angle on that community side so that you can go and explore that. Life is here for us, so make the most out of it. As cliche as it sounds, I really do passionately believe that.
Yeah, a lot of these cliches or bumper sticker things, a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at it, but there's a lot of truth. When you ultimately have some success, you realize there's a lot of truth there. Where can people find out about you? And you have two websites. I know one is for your art, one is for the Art from the Heart membership site. So where would you like people to go?
So many places. Maybe head over to Instagram first up. So I'm on Instagram as Ros Gervay Art, and then you can head to my links from there. So I do have my coaching website, which is called permissiontopaint.co, or my art website, which is rosgervayart.com. So you're welcome to go and check out either.
And Ros is R-O-S, Gervay is Gervay. And that permission to paint is not .com, it's .co. Yeah, .co. But Instagram is kind of like your main platform. That's the main platform that speaks to you.
For me at this stage, however, you and I might talk because I do have a YouTube channel, but it needs a little bit of love. So
Yeah.
let's see.
I might be able to give you some pointers there. Is there anything you wish I would have asked you that I didn't, or anything else you'd like to add to our conversation here before we
Oh
wrap
my
things up?
God. Well, I think that's all. I just hope that we've inspired people to give their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations in terms of creative businesses. Give them a crack, give them a crack. That would be amazing. Don't give
I
them
thought
crap.
I thought you said, yeah, give them crack. Maybe have your passion be a sort of a healthy type of crack. That's funny. All right. Well, Ros, thank you very much. You definitely live an inspired life, and you've been an inspiration to me, and I hope a lot of people who catch this. I want to remind our viewers, our listeners, when you're catching the audio podcast, to please subscribe, to like, to share. I mean, doing those things really does help improve the way that this can get out and inspire even more people. So thanks a lot. I'll be back real soon with another interview. Ros, thank you again.
Pleasure. See you soon, Bob.
All right. So long for now, folks.